Number no compromise. My phone lit up at 3 in the morning. Another email from my mother. I knew before I even opened it that it would be bad. But nothing could have prepared me for what I read. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything I've sacrificed for you, show up to this wedding or I will personally make sure you never see a dime of Richard's estate. You think you can just disappear and embarrass me in front of my business partners. You think you can refuse me. I raised you. I own you. You will attend. You will smile. And you will play the perfect daughter role. Or, I will destroy any future you think you have. This is not a request. Be there in 2 weeks or lose everything. Your mother. I read it 3 times. My hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. 2 years. 2 years since she threw me out of her house when I could barely walk after the car accident. 2 years of complete radio silence while I learned to use my legs again. While I cried through physical therapy. While I rebuilt my entire life from nothing. Not a single call. Not a text on my birthday. Not even a message when I graduated high school. Nothing. And now this. Now she wanted me to show up like a trained dog and pose for photos at her wedding to Richard. The same Richard who lied to her face about giving me permission to drive that day. The same Richard who watched me get thrown out without saying a word. The man who destroyed my relationship with my mother was now going to marry her. And I was supposed to smile about it. I sat up in bed. My heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My roommate Jessica was asleep in the next room. My tiny studio apartment was dark, except for the glow of my phone screen. And in that moment, staring at those words, I own you, something inside me snapped. I opened my laptop. My hands were steady now, crystal clear. I had been collecting evidence for months, not even sure why. Screenshots of every threatening message, every cold email, every manipulation. Medical records from the accident, text messages that proved Richard had lied. All of it, organized in a folder I had labeled, The Truth. My finger hovered over a new post on social media. One click, and everything would change. Her business reputation, her perfect image, her upcoming merger that I had heard about through my grandmother. All of it could come crashing down with one post, but here's the thing. I wasn't that scared 18-year-old girl anymore. The one who got thrown away like garbage. The one who cried herself to sleep wondering why her own mother didn't love her. I had become someone else entirely. Someone who understood that silence was just another word for surrender. If you want to know how a mother's worst nightmare came true when her daughter finally stopped being silent, you need to hear this whole story. Hit that like button right now and drop a comment because what I'm about to tell you is going to make your blood boil. And subscribe, because trust me, you will not believe how this ends. You will not believe what happened when I finally pressed that button and watched her perfect world explode. But first, let me take you back to where it all began. To the moment that destroyed everything, to the accident that should have brought us closer but instead tore us apart forever. Let me take you back to where it all started. I was 18, just a few days away from getting my driver's license. I remember the exact moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Golden sunlight streaming through the car windows as I practiced parallel parking on the empty street near our house. I was laughing, genuinely happy, because I had finally nailed the maneuver after weeks of practice. I had asked Richard that morning if I could take the car out for practice. He was my stepfather, or as my mother insisted I call him, my uncle, even though they were clearly together. He had looked up from his coffee, smiled that easy smile of his, and said, "Sure thing. Kiddo. Just don't bring home any tickets." He even joked about it, making me promise not to scratch his precious BMW. So there I was, feeling confident and proud, when suddenly a delivery truck ran a red light at the intersection. I did not even see it coming. The sound of screeching brakes filled my ears. Then the sickening crunch of metal on metal. The airbag exploded in my face. The smell of burnt rubber and something chemical filled my lungs. Then everything went black. When I woke up in the hospital, every single part of my body screamed in pain. The fluorescent lights felt like needles in my eyes. A nurse was gently adjusting the bandages on my head, and I could hear the steady beep of monitors all around me. My head was spinning, and I could barely process what the doctor was saying. Something about spinal trauma, broken ribs, at least 3 months of complete bed rest, followed by extensive physical therapy. Maybe longer. "Where's my mom?" I whispered through cracked lips. The nurse gave me a sympathetic look. "She's been notified. I'm sure she'll be here soon." 3 hours later, Eleanor finally walked through those hospital doors. Not running. Not crying. She walked in like she was entering a business meeting, her designer purse on one arm, her phone in the other hand. She briefly glanced at me lying there, tubes and wires everywhere, and then immediately turned to the doctor to discuss my condition in that crisp, professional tone she used with her employees. "I see." And the prognosis. She was taking notes in her leather planner. I felt so small in that moment, like I was just another item on her to-do list. Richard stood behind her, his face arranged in what I suppose was meant to look like concern. But his eyes kept darting away whenever I tried to make eye contact. "Mom." I tried again, my voice weak. "We'll discuss everything at home." "Chloe," she said, without even looking at me. "Richard." "Arrange for her transport." That was it. No hug. No tears. No "thank God you're alive." Just logistics. Richard carried me into the house later that evening, and I remember thinking how roughly he set me down on the couch. Not violently, but without the care you would show someone who had just been in a serious accident. Every movement sent lightning bolts of pain through my spine. The first week was a blur of pain, medication, and tears. I could barely move without help. Getting to the bathroom required someone to practically carry me. Every breath hurt because of my broken ribs. I spent my days staring at the ceiling, wondering how I was going to finish my senior year of high school, wondering if I would ever feel normal again. Then, everything got worse. On day 8, I was attempting to take a few steps with a walking frame. My physical therapist had dropped it off that morning and given me instructions to try standing for just a few minutes each day. I was shaking with effort, sweat pouring down my face. When Eleanor and Richard walked into the living room, my mother's face was dark with anger. Richard told me what really happened. She said, her voice like ice. "You took the car without asking anyone. You lied to the police about having permission. Do you have any idea how this makes our family look?" I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. "What? No." I asked Richard. He said yes. He was right there in the kitchen that morning. Richard stepped forward, crossing his arms over his chest. "Eleanor, I was out in the garden all morning. I never spoke to Chloe about the car. She knows I don't let her drive without supervision." He turned to me with this look of patient disappointment, like I was a child caught in an obvious lie. "Come on, Chloe. You tend to exaggerate things. I understand you're upset and in pain, but lying isn't going to help." "I'm not lying." My voice cracked. Tears were streaming down my face now, from pain and from the sheer injustice of it. "You said 'sure thing, kiddo,' and you made a joke about not bringing home any tickets. You laughed about it." "Enough." Eleanor's voice cut through the room. "I've made my decision. This house needs peace. And clearly, you are not ready to take responsibility for your actions. You'll be staying with your grandparents until you can be honest with us." The walking frame clattered to the floor as my legs gave out. Richard did not move to help me. Neither did my mother. "Mom, please." I sobbed. "I didn't lie. I swear I didn't lie. Why won't you believe me?" But she had already turned away. 1 hour later, a small suitcase was packed. 1 hour after that, I was in the back of Richard's car, my entire body screaming in agony from being moved. Heading to my grandparents' house, I watched my childhood home disappear in the side mirror, and I felt something break inside me that had nothing to do with bones or spinal injuries. When Grandma Evelyn opened the door and saw me, her face crumpled. She pulled me into her arms as carefully as she could, and I finally let myself completely fall apart. Grandpa Arthur appeared behind her, his jaw tight with anger, but his eyes were wet. "You're home now, sweetheart," Grandma whispered into my hair. "You're safe. We've got you." Their house smelled like vanilla and old books. My old room was exactly as I had left it from my last summer visit, with my stuffed animals still arranged on the shelf and my favorite quilt on the bed. Grandpa Arthur had already installed grab bars along the hallway without even being asked. Grandma had stocked the kitchen with all my favorite foods. For the first time in over a week, I felt like I could breathe. But the pain was far from over. Physical therapy was brutal. Every session left me sobbing. Learning to walk again, truly walk without assistance, took months. There were days I wanted to give up, days where the pain was so intense I could not see straight, days where I wondered if I would ever feel normal again. My best friend Jessica came to visit me almost every afternoon. She would sit on my bed, help me with homework I had missed, and tell me all the school gossip. She never once made me feel like a burden. "You're going to come back stronger than ever," she said one day. Watching me struggle through my exercises, "I can already see it. You're turning into a total badass." I laughed despite the pain. "I don't feel like a badass. I feel like I got run over by a truck." "Well, technically you did. But that's not the point. The point is, you're not giving up. That takes serious strength." Slowly, painfully, I started to rebuild my life. My grandparents drove me to physical therapy appointments 3 times a week. They helped me catch up on schoolwork. They never once complained about the extra burden, never once made me feel unwelcome. Grandma would sit with me during my worst pain days, reading aloud from my favorite books. Grandpa would tell me stories about his own injuries from his time in the military, how he had learned to push through, but there was a hole in my heart that physical therapy could not fix. My mother never called. Not once. No text messages. No emails? Nothing. I graduated high school on time, though I had to do it from my grandparents' house with online classes. When my diploma arrived in the mail, Grandma cried happy tears, and Grandpa took me out for ice cream. I waited for a congratulations message from Eleanor. It never came. I enrolled in community college, determined to build a future for myself. My grandparents helped me get a used laptop and paid for my books. I got a part-time job at the campus library, something I could manage with my physical limitations. I was building a life, but there was always this ache, this question that never went away. Why did not my own mother love me enough to even check if I was okay? 2 years passed. 2 entire years of silence. Then the email came. "Chloe, Richard and I are getting married in a formal ceremony in 3 weeks. Your presence is required. I have several important business partners attending, and they've seen your photo on my desk. It would be extremely awkward to explain your absence. Please put the past behind us and attend. This is important for the family image." I stared at that email for a long time. Family image. Not "I miss you." Not "I'm sorry." Not "How have you been?" Just family image. I typed back one word: "No." Her response came within minutes, and it was not pretty. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you, if you don't attend this wedding, you can forget about any inheritance. You won't see a penny from Richard's business investments or from my estate. I'm not joking. Chloe, show up and smile, or you're cut off completely. Your choice." I read it again, then again. Then I started laughing, and I could not stop. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had finally seen the truth with perfect clarity. She did not want her daughter. She wanted a prop, a smiling face and a photograph to show her business partners that she was a successful woman with a perfect family. I was not a person to her. I was a chess piece in her image management strategy. Jessica came over that night and found me at my laptop, surrounded by printed screenshots. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm done being silent," I said. "They threw me away when I was broken. Now they want me to pretend everything is fine so they can look good for their friends. I'm not doing it." "Chloe, what are you planning?" I showed her the folder of evidence I had been collecting. Every cold email, every threat, every dismissal. The hospital records showing I had been telling the truth about my injuries. Everything. "I'm going to tell the truth," I said simply, publicly. Jessica's eyes widened. "Are you sure? This could get really messy. I've spent 2 years being invisible. I'm done." My hands were steady as I started typing. They want me to care about their image. Fine. Let's talk about their image. I crafted the post carefully. No exaggeration. No embellishment. Just the facts. The accident. Richard's lie about not giving permission. Being thrown out while I could barely walk. 2 years of complete silence. And now, the threatening emails demanding I show up as a decoration for their wedding. I attached screenshots of every email, every threatening text message. I tagged Eleanor's professional account. I tagged Richard. I tagged some of her business partners whose accounts I had found through her public friend lists. Then I wrote at the end, "This is the price of a perfect family image. A daughter erased. A truth buried. And now threats when that daughter won't play pretend anymore. I won't be attending the wedding. I won't be anyone's prop. I'm done being invisible." Jessica grabbed my hand. "Once you hit post, you can't take it back." "I know." I looked at her. "Should I do it? That's not my decision. But I'll support you either way." I hit post. For about 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then my phone started buzzing. And buzzing. And buzzing. By the next morning, my post had been shared hundreds of times. Comments were flooding in. Some were supportive. Some were shocked. Some were from people who apparently knew my mother professionally and were stunned by what they were reading. My phone rang. It was Grandma Evelyn. Her voice shaking. "Chloe. Honey. What did you do?" I told the truth. "Grandma?" Eleanor called me. She's frantic. Apparently, one of her major business deals is falling apart. The company she was supposed to merge with saw your post. They're pulling out. They said they can't be associated with someone who treats their own child that way. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I didn't know about any merger. I know you didn't, sweetheart, but the damage is done. Your grandfather and I need to talk to you. Can we come over? When they arrived at my tiny studio apartment near campus, both of them looked exhausted. Grandpa Arthur sat down heavily on my second-hand couch. "Chloe," he started gently, "we understand why you did it. Richard is a liar and a manipulator. But posting about your mother's business like that was a line crossed." "I didn't mention any specific business deals," I said defensively. "I just told the truth about what happened to me." Grandma took my hand. "I know, darling, but you have to understand. Your mother's reputation in her industry is everything. This merger was worth millions. Jobs depend on it. And now it's gone because her business partners think she's cruel." "She was cruel." I stood up, anger flooding through me. "She threw me out when I couldn't walk. She chose to believe a liar over her own daughter. She didn't call me for 2 years, and now she's threatening me. Where was everyone's concern for me then?" Grandpa Arthur's face softened. "You're right. You're absolutely right. Your mother made terrible choices. But Chloe, you can't fight cruelty with destruction. That's not who you are." "So what was I supposed to do?" My voice broke. "Just show up at their wedding and smile. Let them use me." "No," Grandma said firmly. "You were right to refuse. But maybe going public wasn't the answer either." I sank back down onto my couch, suddenly exhausted. I just wanted people to know the truth. I'm so tired of being invisible. Of being erased. We sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, I opened my laptop and deleted the post. But it did not matter. The screenshots were already everywhere. The damage, as Grandma had said, was done. That evening, I wrote an email to Eleanor. Not an apology, because I was not sorry for telling the truth, but an explanation. "I didn't know about your business merger. I don't follow your career or your deals because you've made it clear I'm not part of your life. When you emailed threatening to cut me off unless I attended your wedding, I realized something. You don't want a relationship with your daughter. You want a photograph. You want the appearance of a happy family without any of the actual work that comes with loving someone. I'm not interested in being a prop. I told the truth about what happened to me. If that truth damaged your business reputation, maybe you should think about why that truth is so damaging. I'm not attending your wedding. I'm not playing pretend anymore. I'm done being invisible to you." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer. "Hello, Chloe." It was Eleanor's voice, but different somehow. "Quieter. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to say to each other. Please, just listen." She took a shaky breath. "Your grandmother told me some things. About Richard. About what really happened that morning before your accident." I stayed silent. "I talked to our neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She was in her garden that morning. She saw Richard in the kitchen with you. She heard him tell you it was fine to take the car." Eleanor's voice cracked. All this time, he was lying, and I believed him over you. Yeah, you did. My voice was flat. I'm so sorry. Chloe. I'm so sorry. I chose convenience over truth. I chose peace in my house over believing my own daughter. I was a coward. I felt tears burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Why are you telling me this now? Because your business deal fell through? No, because I saw your post and I realized what I'd done to you. The merger collapsing just made it impossible to ignore anymore. Everything you wrote was true. All of it. And I let it happen. I pushed you away when you needed me most. You didn't just push me away, I said quietly. You threw me out when I couldn't even walk by myself. You chose Richard's lies over me. You didn't call for 2 years. Not once. Not on my birthday. Not on holidays. Nothing. I know. There's no excuse for that. I told myself I was giving you space. That you needed time to mature and take responsibility. But the truth is, I was running away from having to admit I was wrong. It was easier to believe Richard than to face what I'd done to you. So what now, I asked. You want me to just forgive you because you finally figured out the truth? No, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that I know what really happened. And I'm divorcing Richard. I filed the papers this morning. That surprised me. What? I'm divorcing him. He's been lying about a lot of things. Not just the accident. Financial things. Business things. I've been a fool in more ways than one. She paused. The wedding is canceled. I don't want to marry a liar and a manipulator. And even if he wasn't those things, I can't stand next to him, knowing what he did to you. I did not know what to say. I'm not asking you to come back. Eleanor continued. I'm not asking you to be part of my life again. I just needed you to know. The truth came out. And I'm sorry. For all of it. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding my phone, feeling like the ground had shifted underneath me. 2 years of silence. And now this. Jessica came over an hour later and found me staring at the wall. You okay? She asked. My mom called. She's divorcing Richard. She admitted he lied about everything. She apologized. Jessica sat down next to me. How do you feel? I don't know. I turned to look at her. Part of me feels vindicated. Like finally someone believes me. But another part of me is just so angry. It took her business deal falling apart to actually investigate the truth. It wasn't about me. It was about her reputation. Maybe, Jessica said carefully. But does it matter why she looked for the truth if she finally found it? I think it does. Because if that merger had gone through, she would have married Richard, and I would still be invisible to her. We sat in silence for a while. What are you going to do? Jessica finally asked. I don't know yet, but I know I'm not rushing to forgive her. She doesn't get to show up after 2 years and expect everything to be okay just because she finally believes me. Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. Richard's lies unraveled spectacularly. It turned out he had been embezzling from Eleanor's company. The evidence came out during the divorce proceedings, and suddenly there were criminal charges involved. The police were investigating. His assets were frozen. Eleanor lost her position at her company. The merger that had fallen through was just the beginning. Her professional reputation took a massive hit. She had to step down from several boards. The woman who had built her entire identity around her career success watched it crumble. And honestly, I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No guilt. Just emptiness. Grandma Evelyn called me one afternoon. Your mother wants to see you. She's staying with us for a while until she figures things out. I don't want to see her. I understand. Sweetheart. But I think you should. Not for her sake. For yours. You have things you need to say. And she needs to hear them. I thought about it for a long time. Finally, I agreed. Walking into my grandparents' house and seeing my mother there felt surreal. She looked older. Tired. Her perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. No designer clothes. She looked like a regular person. And somehow that made it worse. Grandma made tea and then quietly left us alone in the living room. Eleanor and I sat across from each other. The coffee table between us, like a barrier. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. I did not respond. I know I have no right to ask anything of you. I know I've destroyed any trust you might have had in me. But I needed to see you. To tell you face to face how sorry I am? Okay. My voice was emotionless. You're sorry. Now what? Now nothing. You don't owe me anything. No forgiveness. No second chance. Nothing. She looked down at her hands. I spent my whole life building a career, building an image, being successful, and I told myself that was what mattered. That providing for you financially was enough. That you would understand when you were older why I had to prioritize my work. You didn't just prioritize work. Mom, you believed a stranger over your own daughter. You threw me out when I was hurt. You didn't call for 2 years. That's not about being busy. That's about not caring. She flinched but nodded. You're right. I chose the easy path. Richard told me a version of events that meant I didn't have to question anything. It meant I could maintain peace in my house and focus on my work. It was comfortable. And I chose comfort over you. Why, I finally asked. My voice breaking. Why was it so easy to choose him over me? I'm your daughter. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Because I was scared. Scared of admitting I had made a mistake in trusting him. Scared of facing conflict. Scared of having to rebuild after another failed relationship. So I took the coward's way out, and I sacrificed you to maintain my comfortable life. She wiped her eyes. There's no excuse. It was unforgivable. You deserved a mother who would fight for you. Who would believe you. Who would choose you every single time. And I failed you completely. I felt my own tears starting. Do you have any idea what the last 2 years have been like? Learning to walk again. Finishing school from my grandparents' spare room. Starting college while still dealing with chronic pain. Going through all of that without you. My own mother. I know I can't make it up to you. I know I can't undo the damage I've done. But I want you to know that losing my career, losing my reputation, losing everything I built, none of that hurts as much as knowing what I did to you. None of it. She leaned forward. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to have a relationship. But I needed you to know that I see what I did. I own it. And I will spend the rest of my life knowing I failed the most important person in my life. We sat there crying for a while. Not together. But separately. Each dealing with our own pain. Finally, I wiped my eyes and looked at her. I can't forgive you right now. Maybe not ever. What you did was too big. Hurt too much. I understand. But, I continued, maybe someday we can figure out what kind of relationship is possible. If any. But it has to be real. No more image management. No more me being a prop in your life. If we're going to have any contact, it has to be honest and on my terms. Eleanor nodded. Whatever terms you set, I'll respect them. Y promise. Don't promise me anything else. I said tiredly. You've broken too many promises already. Just show me through your actions. That's all I can handle right now. Over the next few months, things slowly started to shift. Eleanor started therapy. So did I. We occasionally had supervised conversations with a family counselor present. They were awkward and painful, but they were honest. Richard went to prison for embezzlement and fraud. The trial was all over the news. I did not attend. I did not need to see him brought low to feel vindicated. I was too busy building my own life. I graduated from community college with honors. Grandma and Grandpa were there, cheering louder than anyone. Jessica was there. Of course. And in the back row, almost hidden, was Eleanor. She did not try to come up afterward. She did not try to insert herself into my celebration. She just smiled at me from a distance. And I nodded back. It was something, not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but acknowledgement. I got accepted to a 4-year university with a partial scholarship. I got my own apartment. I got a better job. I was building a life that was mine. On my terms. Sometimes Eleanor would send a text, simple things like thinking of you or proud of you. I did not always respond. But I did not block her either. One afternoon, I was sitting on my small balcony, drinking coffee and watching the sunset. When I realized something, I was happy. Not perfectly happy. I still had bad days. I still had pain from the accident. I still had complicated feelings about my mother. But I was free. Free from being someone else's prop. Free from needing approval from people who did not truly see me. Free from staying silent to keep the peace. I had spent 2 years being invisible. And another year fighting to be seen. But now I was finally learning to just be, to exist on my own terms. To build relationships with people who valued me as a person. Not as a chess piece in their perfect life image. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica: dinner tonight, I have news. I smiled and typed back. Absolutely. My place or yours? This was my life now. Small moments of joy with people who truly cared. No more waiting for scraps of attention from people who saw me as an inconvenience. No more trying to earn love that should have been freely given. I looked out at the sunset, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Peace. Not because everything was perfect. Not because all my relationships were healed. But because I had finally learned the most important lesson. I did not need anyone's permission to exist. I did not need to shrink myself to make others comfortable. I did not need to be invisible to maintain someone else's peace. I was done compromising myself for people who wouldn't compromise for me. So here's my question for you. Have you ever been invisible in someone else's life? Have you ever been the person who was expected to stay quiet and smile while being treated like you did not matter? What did you do about it? Let me know in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because I'll be sharing more about this journey, including the ongoing process of healing and setting boundaries with people who once hurt me. Remember, you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You matter. Your truth matters. And you deserve people in your life who see you as a person, not as a prop in their perfect picture. Take care of yourselves out there. And never, ever compromise who you are for someone who wouldn't do the same for you.